So, whether you're a parent looking for tips to keep your family in top shape or an individual seeking the benefits of chiropractic care, you're in for an enlightening experience. Let's give a hearty welcome to Dr. Eva and Joe Zingone, your guides on the journey to a healthier and happier family life.
Hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Eva.
And I'm Dr. Joe.
And we're so happy to be here today talking to you guys about birth. It's one of our favorite things to talk about.
Right, and before we get into it, we just want to thank Freddie and Janina and everybody at Prestige Tech for putting this whole event on. There is so much that has to happen behind the scenes for an event like this, for us to be able to connect with you with all these different amazing speakers. So thank you to everybody involved in making this happen. Thank you for everybody that showed up, and hopefully we give you guys some nuggets that really help get some wheels spinning up there.
Let's spin those wheels.
Let's spin the wheels.
So a little bit about us. We are both certified perinatal and pediatric chiropractors. We met in chiropractic school. We fell deeply in love. We always knew that we wanted to open up a business together and practice together and serve other families, children, babies, pregnant mamas, and that's exactly what we're doing today. Our office is called Clear Chiropractic in San Diego. And as much as we've loved birth, and we truly have over this last decade of getting to work with moms, getting to work with families through this transition into parenthood, getting to hear their birth stories, getting to watch them transform, it's always been something that has been very close to the heart for us. And then last year, we got to walk this journey ourselves. I gave birth to my son Rocco, our son Rocco. He's now a year and a half. We had a beautiful home birth. That experience was so, oh man, how do you even put that experience into words? It's beyond words, and it was a truly transformative experience. I believe that it's something that can have the absolute power to transform our sense of self, the way we the way we relate to ourselves and to other people, bring us closer to the divine. It is such a powerful and potent experience. And unfortunately, I feel that more often than not, we're not given the opportunity to truly allow that experience to shape us in the way that it can, given the way that our modern Western medical system treats birth.
Yeah, and let's just address this right out the gate, which is you're going to be listening to a bunch of chiropractors talking about birth. And the birth world, and really all things in healthcare, come with a certain sense of people get really, really passionate about certain things and really offended by other things and really against other things. This talk is not about us putting up more barriers. What we want to do is help us all knock down some barriers, recognize that the men and women that operate in all these different systems are good people. My mom's one of them. She's been a nurse with little babies for 46 years. So in the hospital system, working shoulder by shoulder with a lot of other good, hardworking people. What we have found, not only through our own clinical practice, but through our education and through just talking with different moms in the community, is that the quality of care isn't as good as it can be. And what we love about chiropractic and what we hope for birth and healthcare and the whole birth world in general is that no matter where you're at, you can always get a little bit better. So our hope is that by putting this intention out there, by putting this awareness that we're not doing a good enough job yet and that we can get a little bit better, that we can raise the bar for these moms and for these kids coming into the world that are eventually going to be the leaders that are running this world someday. So that's our intention. So we don't hope to ostracize or polarize, but we might ruffle a couple feathers, and that's okay too.
That's how we evolve. That's how we grow. Coming up against things that challenge our paradigm and that challenge the status quo. So a lot of people, I think, when they think about chiropractic, they think about back pain, maybe adult's been in a car accident and you want to go get your back cracked or your neck cracked. And then people come into our office and they see us working with newborn babies that are days old or working with pregnant mamas. And the care looks very, very different from what most people associate with traditional chiropractic care. And that's because our focus in our office is on the nervous system. And there are so many ways that you can work with the nervous system that are super gentle, super specific, and it can help all ages adapt to stress. So you can see in some of these images just a couple still shots of life in our office. You got pregnant mamas, you got full families, you got kids, you got babies, and it's been so impactful for us to really see, again, from a clinical standpoint and in our own experience and our own bodies. I get to be married to a chiropractor, my kid gets to get adjusted on a weekly basis. the power that this nervous system work has to change the trajectory of someone's life and of a family's life. And again, not just the way that they interact with themselves and their relationship to self, their experience in their body, but the way that they interact with one another, the way that they interact with people in their community, the way that they interact with society. So it's really, really powerful work. So we're going to share more with you about what the heck the nervous system is. I think you're going to be hearing a lot about that from a lot of the different speakers today, of all the different ways that we can interact with our nervous system, the way that we are interacting with our conscious reality. And chiropractic is one such avenue that can help enhance that experience.
Yeah, and we have a saying in our office, which is that we take health very seriously, but we like to have fun. And this is really, really critical to, in my opinion, evolving your health, which is that, do you enjoy the practices that evolve your health? I think you should. I think there is a greater impact when you enjoy the experiences that you go through. Sometimes they're not fun. Sometimes they got some tough spots, but the process, the work itself should be something that you look forward to doing. And another honor of ours is getting to care for families together. So each individual family member coming and having a moment where they can bring their issues and their challenges, work through them, gain a greater sense of health, and do that. And together, there's just something incredibly powerful about that. So, our hope is that we get to have a little bit of fun too along the way.
So let's just take a minute before we go any further and talk about how freaking amazing your body is. Our bodies are incredible, and there's no, I think, experience in life that really illustrates this more than pregnancy and childbirth. Come on, we can go from a single cell that then replicates into trillions of cells. It's absolutely mind-blowing when you think about, down to the very detail, every single eyebrow hair, every fingernail that grows. There's no instruction manual for that. Right? This is just one of the many innately wired mechanisms that our body just knows how to do, right? Life knows how to bring forth life in the same way that you can just sprinkle some seeds, or some seeds can blow and breeze by on the side of the freeway, and you're driving down a San Diego freeway and there's just beautiful fields of gorgeous flowers that are blooming, because life just has this innate ability to create more life. So this innate intelligence, this wisdom that is inside of our bodies, it never leaves us. It may not be as overtly obvious as like, whoa, you just grew a human inside of you, but it's this power that exists inside of our body that is with us for our whole lives long that enables us to heal. It is a healing power, whether that's healing from a teensy little paper cut on my finger or healing from a more serious illness. It is still the body's default to always be working towards wholeness, to be working towards a greater level of organization, and to be working towards healing and coherence. Well,
that's Dr. Eva's philosophy on health. That's her viewpoint. That's how she sees things. So I'm going to ask you guys, what's your philosophy on health? Where do you think health comes from? There are schools of thought that think everything in the universe is random and nothing is organized, and the fact that we're all here is just complete chaos and just chance. That is their philosophy. That's going to impact the decisions they make, the things that they think are possible or not possible. And at the end of the day, there is no right or wrong. You just have to decide for yourself what you feel is right, what resonates with you on the inside of your soul to say, yeah, there has to be something here, or there has to be nothing there. I don't have the answer for you, but what we found in practice is that the people who understand, or at least choose to view life as something that is incredibly brilliant. We don't have to give credit to this person or that situation. It's just recognizing that, man, it is amazing. There is this intelligence that built my heart, that built my lungs, that keep me breathing air. At some point, I think it's important to just appreciate it. And we don't have to, again, go down the whole rabbit hole of, well, is it this or is it that? It doesn't matter. It just is. We don't have to make the rules. We just got to play by them. And the truth is that your body was designed to be healthy. Now, there will always be exceptions to the rule. And there's probably some people out there going, but wait a second, Dr. Joe, what about those kids that have this issue and those people that don't get to live past that? Of course, nothing is guaranteed in this life. And there is a lot of bad things that happen to good people. And we're, again, not trying to sit here and explain why this and why that, who chooses that. I'm just simply stating that for the most part, babies are born with 2 eyes right here. For the most part, babies are born with 2 feet down there and 10 fingers and 10 toes. Now again, exceptions to rule, of course, but for the most part, there is some sort of pattern and intelligence recognizing that there are certain things need to be in certain places. So like Dr. Eva said, the birth process is where we can really take this from a conceptual thought into a holy moly, a woman gets to see and experience her body change over the course of 9 months. And then over the course of a maybe 12-hour to 3-day period, she brings this baby into the world, and then everything is changed. And everything is really, really, really amazing too. So again, our viewpoint, our philosophy is that health and happiness and infinite potential is a given right to each and every single one of us. How we choose to utilize that, how we choose to recognize that, and how we choose to give credit to that is completely up to you. But we see things as that each person has potential within them.
That's right. Should we talk about the nervous system?
I think we should, because this is really how we put that philosophy into something tangible in the body.
Yep.
And like Dr. Eva alluded to, there's other amazing speakers that are going to be saying things that might have overlap and where we go, ooh, I heard this person say that. It's awesome. But each professional, each person who sees things through a different lens is going to give credit where it's due, how they see fit. We see the nervous system as the thing that connects our consciousness and our infinite potential to the actual experience that we're having in our body. So if we go with just pure anatomy, physiology, modern understanding of the science behind what's happening here, we could break down the nervous system from an anatomy standpoint. It's referencing your brain, your spinal cord, your brainstem, of course, too, your spinal cord, and then all the nerves that connect to your body. And from a very, very simplistic standpoint, the job of this system is to keep you alive. But a higher level is to literally create your experience, process everything in your environment, both current and also past, we'll talk about that, and then create the changes that are necessary so that we can respond to whatever it is in our environment. Now that is very complicated, but we can keep it very simple that the job of this system is to keep us alive, to create our experience, and adapt us to stress. Now, what's so interesting about this system is it's just like any other system in our body. It gets exposed to stress, and stress can affect its function. We'll break down stress and what that looks like. But here's where I find it so interesting that if you walk down the street and ask the average person, hey, have you gone to the dentist in the last couple of years? They'd probably say, yeah. So they got their teeth checked at some point by a professional. You say, hey, have you gotten your annual physical? And they say, oh yeah, I got my heart checked, I got my ears checked, I got my lungs checked, all that stuff. But when I say, hey, have you had your nervous system checked?
Huh?
That's when people usually run. But it's just something that in our current world, 2023, where we're living here, it doesn't matter where you are in the world, most people don't have a go-to professional to say, yeah, I have my nervous system checked and I have it worked with and enhanced throughout the course of my lifetime when necessary and when needed. Well, that's what a neurologically focused chiropractor does. They view the nervous system as this incredibly important, incredibly vital system to your body. And who else is going to take care of it? Well, here we are. We got neurologically focused chiropractors. The next layer of that, when I ask people, have you had your nervous system checked? They usually say no. They usually say, well, I either do or I don't have pain. That's what people think is the indicator for when it's time to go to a chiropractor or to have some sort of issue addressed in their body. Well, I don't have any pain, so I feel fine. Again, we're not trying to point fingers here, but the medical world has taught us that we only take action on something when it's broken, busted, or causing major problems. You know, if I had $1 for every time parents in our office came up to us and said, you know, we went to our pediatrician because Susie is struggling with X, Y, or Z. And the pediatrician said, the blood works fine and the labs are fine, the imaging is fine, there's nothing we could do, they'll just grow out of it. And that ticks the mom off because the mom knows that her daughter isn't as well as she could be. And it stinks for the daughter because the daughter's struggling with X, Y, or Z, but not getting any answers. Or maybe getting a run around and getting solutions that don't actually create any sort of benefit in the body. So again, no judgment. But to think that the only time that we need to take care of our health is when we have an obvious symptom or problem, it's missing so much potential. And from a scientific standpoint, when we look at the nervous system, we dissect and figure out, all right, which nerves are responsible for telling the brain which things? Only about 10% of the nerves in your body detect pain. So if you have pain, you're getting signals from about 10% of your body. But what about the other 90%? That's how your immune system responds, how your sleep-wake cycles, how your emotional health is, how your digestive, all of those other systems are controlled and coordinated by the nervous system, with 90% of its function being geared towards things that you can't feel even if you had a problem to. So I bring this up because to me, the nervous system is the most important system in the body. Most people have not had it evaluated, and most people don't know when they have a problem with it. So hopefully, through what we talk about, we get a little bit of action steps on that.
Another thing that is mind-boggling to me about the nervous system, especially since we're talking about birth and we're talking about helping to evolve our consciousness for the future generations, is that during pregnancy, it's the only time that we are two nervous systems in one. And I don't think a lot of people really think about this, and it's really a burgeoning field of perinatal psychology, of really recognizing how influenced the baby is by mom's environment. So baby's home for 9 months is mom's uterus, right? They are stewing in mom's physiology. They are partaking in all of her hormonal secretions, her stress response. So they're stewing in mom's body chemistry. And if mom is exposed to a lot of stress again and again and again, if mom doesn't have a constructive way of processing and releasing this stress, baby's neurology is starting to already be wired for what they are to expect in the outside world. So they might be predisposed to, wow, okay, the outside environment is going to be something that's going to be crazy. I'm going to have to be on high alert. It's going to be stressful, versus the environment, the outside world, it's a safe place. I am free to, express. It's going to be filled with love. So it's not that a mom can't experience stress during her pregnancy. It's how does she resolve that stress that is most important. And they've actually done studies on this, looking at moms that experience a lot of major stressful events during their pregnancy. They lost a job or they went through a move, whether it was positive stress or sort of neutral stress, major life changes. And the situations that affected the baby adversely were situations in which the mom did not have any tools to effectively move through that stress. So it's not that you can't experience it, it's how do we resolve that in the body that is most important. And here is where I think it's a wonderful opportunity for the next generation when we talk about things like intergenerational trauma and things like epigenetics and what is our legacy that we're passing on. Well, it starts with this process in utero. When mom and baby's nervous systems are syncing up together, we can start to already entrain the baby to have positive coping mechanisms for experiencing and resolving stress. And that is going to serve them their whole lives long. It will serve their children, their children, their children, and so on and so forth. So it's super, super powerful work.
Mm-hmm.
So we talked about stress. There are different forms of stress. Of course, there's physical stress. I think this is, pretty obvious these days. If we're talking about a pregnant woman, for example, a lot of us are working. Maybe you're working from home and you're sitting all day and you're sitting at a desk and we're sitting in cars and we've got all this wear and tear on our bodies, posturally and otherwise. Not to mention just the things that happen to us over the course of a lifetime that can cause some physical wear and tear. Emotional stressors, I also don't think I need to really outline this because there are just tons and tons of emotional stressors that we interface with these days, that all ages are now interfacing with, that we just didn't come up against 100 years ago or 200 years ago, or that our ancestors didn't have to deal with. It just seems like these things are always compounding more and more and more. And then chemical stressors along that same vein, all of the things that we are exposed to, whether that's our, indoor and outdoor air quality or the toxins and chemicals in our food. And in this country more so than other countries, because we tend to be very lax on what we allow in terms of artificial additives and food dyes and all this crazy stuff. Stress in all these three forms, physical, emotional, and chemical, this is what over time impacts the functioning of the nervous system.
Right. And we love this little line or saying that your body is a storybook. And the reason for this is we want people to understand that your health, where you're at right here, right now, today, as you're listening to us speak through this virtual seminar, is a product of all of the things you've ever been through. Just like a book, there's all sorts of chapters, right? There's some really interesting chapters, there's some kind of boring chapters, there's some really tough, challenging chapters. Every good story that's ever been written always has some sort of adversity to it, right? We don't want to read a story where everything is just yay, 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 yay. We think that's what we want to read, but it's not. And the spirit, our consciousness, craves adversity, because what happens with adversity when we get through it, Dr. Eva?
We get stronger, baby.
Wow, I didn't think she was gonna bust the guns out. Wow.
They're always just a step away.
They're just to ask away. But we get better, we get stronger. It's why there's all sorts of tough challenges in life. It's why, in our opinion, birth is one of those experiences. It's designed to be tough for the woman because she's turning into a mother. It's designed to be tough because that baby is going from a fetus inside this safe haven of mom out to this crazy world that demands that that child get tougher skin so that they can overcome the challenges that their way. So when you understand that your health is a product of all the things you've ever been through, it can help you alleviate this confusion about why am I struggling with X, Y, or Z? You know, sometimes we'll get a patient that comes into our office. Maybe it's a mom that says, hey, you've been adjusting my kid. They're doing so well, and I need some help. I'm dealing with troubles with sleep and digestion and migraines and low energy and all these sorts of things. And we'll ask their health history. We'll get to know about what they've been through. And we always ask about their births, if they've had children, or, you know, any experience that they had that were formative. And sometimes a mom will be like, what, like, why are you asking? Like, that birth was 12 years ago. We're like, yeah, but that was something that you've been through that affects the way that our body adapts to stress today. So anyway, I'm going to move on from this, but I think it's one of the most important things that you'll learn from today, which is that understanding that if wherever you're at, whether you love it or you don't love it or you're kind of meh, you can always get better. There's more chapters to be written. Your story's not done yet. And no matter what the chapters looked like or sounded like before, we don't have to continue to carry the heaviness of that chapter. And in fact, part of your evolution of a human being, part of your evolution of your nervous system and you improving is creating coherence through those stories that were really, 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 really tough to understand. Because some of you out there have had some things that I can't even imagine have happened. You know, some really, really, really terrible things happen to really, really good people. We believe that those stories can be turned into coherent stories that enable you to grow and to evolve so that we can learn lessons, so that we can help more people, and so that we can ultimately be a better version of ourselves. And like I said, the book is still being written. So let's write next chapter. Before we go to this next slide, Dr. Eva, I do want to give a little heads up because I know we're almost at lunchtime. So the next picture we're going to show can be a little bit gruesome to look at. Some people are like, what? And other people are like, oh my gosh. I don't know how you're going to respond to this one. It's something that if you are in healthcare, if you have been any bit around birth or anything in person, not just through Hollywood, it's intense. There are some things that happen in the delivery room that if happened outside of a delivery room, you'd be like, put that person in jail. And again, as we're going through this stuff, the men and women that are working and doing their best to do their job are not bad people. They're not trying to hurt people. But without a level of awareness that things could get better, we tend to just stick in our routines of things that we've always done. So that happens in healthcare a lot. The certain practices that we've had that have worked enough and haven't caused that many problems to where we have obvious, lawsuits making us change our policy, we tend to stick with those things. Again, our goal is to bring more awareness so that we can improve our practices, so that we can take better care of these moms and these kids, so that they can get better outcomes, so that the people that you're walking around town with have better health, better connection to themselves and to others.
And while we're on the storybook analogy, before we transition to this next slide, there are chapters of your story that you might not remember because they were written during those early formative years. So Dr. Joe mentioned we might ask a mom about her experience giving birth, but how might her experience of being born And her experience in early childhood, in those first 2 to 3 years of life, when the brain is so rapidly growing and expanding, when truly we are in ultimate sponge absorption mode, how might that be impacting her story today and some of those maybe subconscious patterns that she's carrying around? How might that be shaped by, again, chapters that are not known to us? So now we're going to start to talk about how those chapters get written. So we talked about the first stressor being really mom's uterine environment and you living inside of mom's body. Well, here's the image that we wanted to show you, which is that birth and the experience of coming into the world is the next major stressor for human beings. And this image here in particular is of a cesarean section. Doesn't matter how baby comes into the world, even in a perfectly, what many people would think of as a peaceful birth. Maybe, I don't know, you're in the woods giving birth next to a baby deer and it's just so beautiful.
Is that peaceful?
But I don't know. For some people, that might be peaceful. But even, an uncomplicated vaginal birth, it's still a tremendous amount of pressure on baby's head and neck, especially if baby spends a lot of time in the birth canal, maybe if baby wasn't in the best position going into things. The ways in which we get babies out of moms can range from, being very hands-off and letting the body do its thing to being downright, assault. So we hear a lot of crazy stories from moms that are deeply disturbing and upsetting. And again, not to villainize any practitioner that is doing the best thing that they know how to do to potentially save a life. And of course, there are instances in which you got to get in there and get the baby out to save a life. But the way that we handle these situations do have a lasting impact. So again, back to this image, you can see in this image how baby's being lifted out by their head. Right? So you think about, that's a tremendous amount of weight and pressure. You would never, 5 minutes after this picture was taken, you never hold a baby by their head, right? And by their neck, because you could just sense that innately that can't be good for their body. So again, life-saving endeavors aside, it's at least something we need to acknowledge that there's a potential to disrupt the very sensitive neurology of the head and neck.